Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's THEWFIA.org, and become a member today.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. I want to welcome Mr. Outrageous, Al Burke. Hello today. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. As I stated before, I watched you quite a bit. Won't say how much younger I am, but whatever. So I'm here to learn about your wrestling career. Actually, you've wrestled for quite some time, though, didn't you?
I just retired just as the pandemic hit for the second time. But I did 37 years of wrestling. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. I actually didn't know that. I thought that you had been retired and gotten into acting like way before that. And the pandemic was definitely a weird period for, I guess, wrestling in general, or life in general, I should say. But the wrestling era was definitely weird.
Yeah, I was, I got brought out of retirement to go to Toronto to wrestle up there.
Okay.
In fact, here, let me shout out to my Toronto guys.
There you go.
But yeah, I did that, so I had to get back in shape. I had retired for about 5 years, I think, and so it took quite a bit to get back into shape. Weight wise, it wasn't that bad, but age really caught up, and working is not easy.
No.
Back in the day, it was simple. I mean, there were many nights that I'd wrestle twice a night. I would usually do a regular match and then come back in a mixed tag match with the girls, that were also on the card. And so I was doing double duty most of the time. And the promoter I worked for loved for me to go to 59 minutes and 58 seconds when he rang the bell and saved my butt from finally getting pinned. So yeah, it was I was in really good shape back then, but anyways, I did it and it was fun, and I did 5 matches up in Toronto, so that was good times. And but yeah, then the pandemic hit and I had just finished all of that, so nothing for me. Acting wise, we kept busy during the pandemic because we worked for a lot of YouTubers.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And they kept me busy, so I can't complain. I had work all through the pandemic, so no problem there.
Yeah. Before we actually get into the wrestling part, so you mentioned acting with like YouTubers or keeping busy because of YouTubers. Like, what kind of stuff did you do concerning that?
The YouTubers are crazy. They got so freaking much money. A lot of them that I worked for are anywhere from 12 to 16, 18 years old. So we would do stupid things like hide and seek. They would pay me to come in, usually a partner, both of us in uniform, drive in a police car, find them, arrest them, take them to the car. It's, crazy crap. They would rent a mansion. That I remember the one we were running across the roof trying to catch the guy. I finally had him cornered. He had to jump off in the pool, which was poison, so he was caught. But he wouldn't let me catch him, so he jumped in the pool.
Was that Mr. Beast? Does that sound familiar? No, I'm just saying. I'm going by what my kids watch. I know that they watch a lot of that weird YouTuber stuff, and some of those guys are just crazy.
A lot of these kids are awesome. I love them, and. But even like big guys like David Dobrik, I was the very first one, or David was, I should say, to have a cop come in and do a scene, and nobody knew about it but 2 of us, and plus the cops, of course. And I came in and arrested his roommate, and then another guy, because I told him, kids were not gonna, and guess they're going to jail. And the funny part was they didn't really know for sure if it was real or not. When I got them downstairs down the hall, down the elevator, into the garage, and they thought, "Oh shit, this is real." And finally, David turns to me and goes, "Will you stop embarrassing me in front of these fake cops?" And the poor guy was like, "What? What?" So it took quite a bit because he really thought he was going to jail, and we played it to the hilt. And sorry, you can get bailed out later. Right now, you're getting locked up, kid.
That's awesome. That's hilarious.
I also told him, I go, they're going to like you in jail.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious. That's funny. So my question is, like, were you a fan of professional wrestling growing up?
I was at a very young child.
Yeah.
And then through my middle years, not at all. Mm-hmm. And then most people don't know the story until I tell it. Friends of mine knew Hulk Hogan when he was with the AWA in Minneapolis,
right,
working for Burke. And he had just come back from Japan from a tour over there. He was in the middle of his Nick Bockwinkel, 3 matches. Right. Went to his apartment where he walked out of the doorway of the bathroom, I remember, and he had to duck. I'm like, oh, damn, you're big. But he told us where to go to school and everything and how to train. And I walked away from that meeting going, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I can't do this for a living. And my friends were like, oh, God, oh, my God, this is so cool. And I listened to their stories for 2 years before I finally decided I would do it, because they were traveling all over the world, having a great time. And and now I outlasted all 3 of their careers put together with my 37 years. And I think about 5,000 matches.
That's a lot of matches. Wow. Yeah. Did you, now I heard before, you trained in Minnesota, correct?
That's correct.
Were you under Eddie Sharkey?
Well, I was kind of, weird story. Eddie did not have a ring at the time, which Eddie was kind of famous for.
Right.
So his head trainer was Dan Rignati, who was Riggs from the Terminators, who was a personal friend. So I paid him to personally train me. And, Dan knew my background. I mean, I came out of boxing. Then I went into karate. I did underground, bare knuckle fighting. He knew that, I had plenty of ring experience, so that wasn't going to be a problem. So he trained me, and within about 6 months, I was ready for my first match. And I remember one of my highlights, my very first match, Sherry Martel was sitting in the audience. Scary Sherry. And, I love her, and so sad that she's gone now. But
big fan of hers, yeah.
Well, we had some good times. I mean, we weren't great friends or anything like that, but she actually brought me into the Cauliflower Alley Club, the reunion for all the wrestlers and boxers, but the wrestlers have kind of taken it over. So Sherry kind of took me under her wing there too, and walked me through some things. So it was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds great. Did you now she was originally, I think, in the AWA at the time. Did you spend time in there at all?
I did not. When I was with the WWF, I figured that was my jobber years.
Okay.
So by the time I walked in, I went in, and I was right at the end of my WWF time. So I was probably 90 or 91. Right. Walked in the office, met with Eric Bischoff, told him what my thoughts were. I felt I'd paid plenty of dues, and I've had hundreds of matches, and I was ready to get a push. He goes, sadly, we're closing the doors next month. So that's as close as I got. I mean, I was ready for it, I felt, and it just wasn't meant to be, so I moved on.
Right. Yeah. No, it was a sad thing to see those guys close shop, because I was a huge AWA fan growing up, and suddenly one day it just wasn't on television anymore. Of course, it was just they had a lot of amazing talent there. Obviously, somebody that I heard in another interview that you were, I guess, friendly with was Tom Stone.
Well, Tom Stone was my booker.
He was your booker. Okay.
He would call me. He was like the main guy for the whole Midwest, and maybe even the West for the WWF. Mm-hmm. And because I was out of Minnesota and we had such a huge pool of wrestlers there. He would call me up and say, I need 10, I need 15, I need 20 guys, and you're going to Cincinnati, or you're going somewhere, Indianapolis.
Right.
So that's what I would do. Then I would line up all my buddies, and there were times we had 2 or 3 vans full of people traveling cross country, heading to the TV taping for the WWF. So that was a very cool time, and it still is for me. I mean, I still look back, and we were just jobbers, but I was paying my dues. I also was able to pay off wrestling school within in less than a year, just from my WWF work. So the money was good, it was fun, and I still look back, and me and some of my friends still talk about it, and it was a good time. We had a great time.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you some questions regarding people that you've met in WWF that you've obviously being a jobber, I guess enhancement talent, help enhance. But let's see, how did you land in the WWF? You didn't go straight to there, did you?
No, I had already done a few years on the different promotions,
right,
and I think Tom Stone had heard about me, so he called me directly and says, "Hey, how well do you know people there?" I go, "I know pretty well." He goes, "Well, we can't take crap, so if they can't work, leave them home." So I ended up developing a relationship like that, and it's something I never got paid for. I didn't get paid extra to do it. I never charged the guys anything. WWF paid for our rental vehicles and our rooms and everything. So, they at the time they treated us really, really good, and it was a fun time.
Yeah. Geez, where was I going with this question? I forgot what I was doing.
So you're asking me.
I know. I'm sorry. This happens quite a bit on this show. Very unprofessional sometimes. So with Tom Stone, I actually had Tom on this podcast probably about almost a year ago. First time I had ever interviewed him. I just first time actually thing I did since I moved into this office. I just reached out to him one day, and he was very, very friendly, very nice guy. So to talk to, awesome guy to talk to.
Yeah, good guy, good worker. Same thing. He was just the middle of the road. People saw him. Half the year on the WWF, and then he did his his shows, and I think he even ran a wrestling school for a while. And all of us did.
So. Yeah, I believe he did. I remember watching bouncing back and forth AWA TV, WWF TV. Like it was to me as a kid at that time. I thought that was weird, but then obviously growing up, I understood how it worked. So So, so what was it like working there in the WWF? Like you said, they took care of you, and you traveled expenses and stuff like that.
They took good care of us. I mean, for the time, and we weren't making anywhere near what the big boys were.
Right.
But we didn't care. And, people ask, were you upset you were a jobber or something? Like, no, I was paying my dues, making a living. I haven't had a real job since I started wrestling. Not one day. It's just been wrestling, and then I went into acting. And for a while it was both. But, I wanted to make it work there. I didn't want an extra job. I didn't want to go bartending or bouncing or any of that stuff. I'd already done all that crap. Yeah. So I really started pushing and getting into all these different organizations, and I ended up out working for the guy out of Denver for 8 years. So either he would fly me in or we would drive in. Usually we'd drive in if it was summertime, and we'd put our Harleys back on the trailer. We'd take them to Colorado. We were done wrestling. We'd go ride around. I mean, it was awesome. And we even used them to come into the ring a few times.
So that's awesome.
It was a good life. And like I said, I still look back, and me and my friends, we laugh and we chuckle. And it was really a good time for almost every one of us.
Right. What do you think about the time period where, they started weeding out guys such as yourself, and then basically bringing top guys throughout the entire show, maybe whether it be an hour or 2 hours and stuff like that, weeding out the enhancement talent?
Even the top guys, they weren't happy because we got to go out there. We got a chance to work. We didn't get to do much. I mean, a few matches when I did too much, it was all edited out.
Right.
So it looked like I just got my ass kicked, and I realized, like, why am I even trying? Beat me like a stepchild, pay me, and send me home. And they did.
Yeah. That's crazy. Do you have any favorite opponents during your time in WWF? I know you worked with LOD, the Warrior. Let's see who else. I have Hercules.
Yeah. Probably my most favorite guy that I worked with was Big Boss Man.
Really?
Bubba and I mean, for whatever reason, we hit it off really well. I was funny one night, and I wasn't working, but I went to see them. It must have been in Minneapolis, and I brought my 2 daughters at the time down there. He sat on a golf cart and just talked to them for probably 2 hours.
Wow.
Asking them, so I'm sure he was homesick, but asking them, what'd you do today? At school, tell me about your school. He just, but he was a really decent guy. And I remember the one night, he was going to hit me with the clothesline. I go, hit me hard. Tossed me off, and I kicked out so hard. I ended up hitting the back of my head on the mat and knocking myself out. Jeez. He comes over and he starts picking me up. I'm like, Bubba, I'm seeing bubbles. Give me a minute. He went over and did his interview, came back and went, doing better, brother. I'm like, yep, let's go. And boom, 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 finished it off. But, he was one of my most enjoyable ones. One of the toughest ones was Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Jim was so unbelievably strong and hyped up. I tell people he pressed me easier than I could press a 10-year-old child over my head. And at the time, I was 240.
Right.
And, yeah, he had no problem. I mean, I didn't even get a chance to assist. It just, boom, I was there. So that was one. The biggest guys, I always say, I got to get in the ring with the Giant.
Yeah, you were telling me that. Yeah, how was it working with him?
As soon as my head went over and got smashed into the Giant's boot, and then he tagged in, I got the hell out of there. I don't want 500 and whatever 540 he was billed at, but even if it's 500, I don't want that falling on me.
Yeah.
But what an honor, guys like that, at the first time I wrestled them, it's the only time I got in the ring. And, they were Colossal Connection, but they were not tag team champions for the WWF.
Right.
A few months later, they put me in there again, but I had already worked that night, and they said, don't even tag in. So, I did the whole, even though they were the heels, my guy's right there. Haku's got them there, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so, not tonight. So the fans hated me, and it was a really good friend of mine, but, he didn't care because he didn't get to go very often. And, we're facing Haku and, the Giant, Andre the freaking Giant.
A legend. Yeah.
And then, I was able to, I think it was the night after I faced Ultimate Warrior, I ended up going against Big John Studd. Okay. And I had no idea how strong John was. I mean, he's obviously a monster of a guy. Mm-hmm. But I ended up, as soon as the bell rang, we came out. I popped him a couple of times, turn around to the turnbuckle, climb up, turn around to jump on him, and boom, he grabbed me by the throat and walked me out with one arm at 240. Then he reached under my ass as soon as he started losing me a little bit and just threw me into the turnbuckle. And, short ribs in the turnbuckle, that didn't feel good. But
right.
But anyways, some of the biggest, baddest guys, probably the best technician was Bret Hart. I went against Hart Foundation. And, I was very, very blessed to work with some of the biggest, baddest guys in the whole world, in the whole wrestling business.
Right.
And, good times and no regrets.
I do want to ask you, you worked against the Nasty Boys, and you teamed up with Ricky Rice against the Nasty Boys, which I was like, I didn't know Ricky Rice had made any appearances for WWF. You're familiar with him, correct? From the AWA?
Yeah, no, I knew Ricky, but I don't remember who my partner was with the Nasty Boys.
Yeah. Oh, I found this on YouTube today, actually, when I was doing a little bit more like extra research, and I was appalled because I've always been like a huge Ricky Rice fan, and I was like, I never knew he was there, and it just amazed me.
He worked, what was it, Top Gun or something, wasn't that?
Yeah, him and Derek Dukes were the Top Guns. Yep.
And that's when I was just starting in the business.
Yeah.
But anyways, little backstory to that one. About 3 months earlier, the Nasty Boys were booked in Key West, Florida to wrestle for B. Brian Blair down there and Paul Orndorff and all that. Well, they double booked themselves with the Bahamas. So they came to Brian like, oh, sorry, we're going to the Bahamas. And Brian's like, they back out half the time. Oh, no, this time we're guaranteed. He goes, okay. So they booked me and the guy I always wrestled with, Party Animal, to fill in for the Nasty Boys in Key West. Well, then when I met him the night I had to work, I'm like, oh, hey, by the way, thanks. We got to fill in for you guys in Key West. First punch was as solid as could be, right to the head.
I'm guessing the show got pulled, or they got pulled from that.
No, we went in and we worked, and they missed out and they didn't get any bookings, so they were pissed. Well, then when I kind of rubbed it in there, he threw me off, hit me with a punch, threw me off again, and called the clothesline, and I didn't go for it.
I heard they could be a little bit difficult to work with. I guess stiff on times, and I heard that their hygiene wasn't the greatest either. I heard
that's one thing, but I came out of all kinds of full contact sports. I got no problem taking a punch, and I took it, and it was awesome. I thought, okay, bitch. But at that point, I had worked myself. I probably was at least 3, maybe 4 years into the WWF at that point. So
right.
I had a lot more skills and a lot of matches under me, and a lot of my friends from Minneapolis there. Ricky Rude, guys like that. I mean, Ricky came to me, and he was working with Ultimate Warrior at the time, doing their angle when I worked against him. And I came back, and Ricky walks over and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, that was just all wrong. And I go, hey, I'm just here to do my job. But the guys watched out for me. Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. I mean, we all came out of the Minnesota area, and
right.
You mentioned LOD. Well, I used to work out at their gym. And so they came to me and go, we're just coming in, we got to come in hot and hard, and we chose you because you know what you're doing, but it's going to be rough. I'm like, fuck you. Give me rough. If you watch that match, it looked devastating. Those guys were, sadly, they're gone. They were such pros. Total freaking pros. They didn't tater me once. I mean, nothing was stiff. I mean, it looked like it. It looked like they were killing us, but that's how dang good those guys were. So, Joe and Mike, God, I miss you guys.
Yeah, I was actually discussing them today. Somehow they came up in conversation. Maybe I was watching something, and my wife was a big fan, so we just ended up getting into this really cool conversation about the LOD. And so I said, hey, I'm interviewing this guy tonight, and showed her the clip of you guys. So you were Kerry Von Erich when he came in as well.
I did. Sadly, I don't even remember it. And it wasn't because of drugs or alcohol. There's a few of the guys, Brian Adams. So he goes, oh, I saw your match with him. I'm like, I never worked with him. Well, I kind of remember Kerry, but I remember just being worried about not attacking his foot.
Right.
Didn't want that boot to come off. But a lot of them, I just went in, did my job, didn't care who I was working with, bang, 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 send me home.
This one I found awkward because I thought maybe it was a little too late of a period, but you wrestled the Steiner brothers when you were in there, according to the research I found. So I thought that maybe, I don't remember when you left. When did you leave? 91, 92?
92, maybe even 93. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's possible because I think they came in 93. So do you remember, I've always heard that those guys were brutal and stiff.
Same thing. Total pros. I mean, I had to take the whatever they call that freaking thing off the shoulders.
The bulldog thing or the DDT. Yeah.
I took that, and I took 24 cc's of liquid out of my knee 4 different times over the next week. Well, it was my fault because I cheated a knee because I was spinning through the air, and I cheated my knee out, and I shouldn't have. I should have just taken body, which I know, but blasted my knee pretty dang good. And, those things, way it goes, and moving on.
You worked with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty on numerous occasions in the WWF. Yeah. Probably, I found 3 or 4 matches listed. Yeah. So, did you know then, how great they were at that time period, and how Shawn would become a huge star?
Yeah, I had an idea, but when I got in the ring with them and realized, God, these, and I don't even know if they're 18. They probably just were.
Right.
They've already worked for many years. Smooth, quick, fast. I mean, there again, true professionals at a very young age. And of course, sadly, Marty's been just a royal screw up the rest of his life. And Sean was able to kick that and go beyond and, actually had a fabulous career. And I heard Marty still, has no shows at special signings and things like that, which is sad. But,
yeah,
we can only control ourselves. And, that's a choice he's made. And no, I was, they're again very honored to work with all these top guys. And the Rockers. Yep. I remember, they got up the top rope and they both jumped off at the same time. I thought, this might hurt. Didn't feel a thing. Not a freaking thing. That's how good they are.
Yeah. And speaking of what you were saying, it's like Marty's choices in life, it's gotten him a TV special. Like this season, The Dark Side of the Ring, he's going to be one of the subjects at hand. So it's a damn shame. Yeah, it is very sad. I was always, it's funny, when I was younger, I thought that he was going to be the breakout star out of the team, but it turned out to be the complete opposite. So.
Well, at the time, the two, they varied. One would get in trouble one week, one would get in trouble the next week. It was back and forth. And luckily, Sean, straightened out, and look at God, how big he became and how, famous. And, I mean, he was, a household name for people that didn't even hardly know wrestling. He was so
Right. Yeah. What about working with Bob Backlund? When he returned to WWF, you worked with Bob. He's another guy that's originally from this area. Really nice guy.
Yeah. A night off again, so smooth. I mean, I could barely feel he was even there. He was so light. Again, a true professional, nice guy. It's kind of cool. You don't have to go through the Ultimate Warrior antics or, things like that. It's just Bob Backlund and the technician. And boy, he was.
Yeah, man. I've always loved that guy. And, so you teamed up with two guys, and I'm really interested in knowing what your opinion about this was. One guy I'm a huge fan of. One guy I'm surprised that I didn't even know that he was in there. But tell me about Bob Bradley. I've always loved Bob Bradley. I followed his career for the most part up until he left WWF and I guess retired after that.
Yeah, I didn't know him much even when I worked with him and stuff, other than I would see him at the tapings. But it seemed like a decent guy. I mean, I never had issues with him. No heat. I mean, a guy came in, did his job, went home, kind of, most of us. So
he's one of those guys that I thought should have been gotten a push in WWF, because I thought that he was that good. I watched him in World Class for years before that, and he former Texas champion and stuff like that, and seeing him squashed pretty much every week on WWFT was just they got to do something with this guy, and just didn't seem to materialize.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember he had at least one dark match. I mean, I had a couple, tryouts, but I always knew I wasn't big enough.
Right.
And I was there during the Land of the Giants. I obviously Andre and Big John Studd and stuff, and most of the guys were 6'4" and over.
Mm-hmm.
And I was barely scratching 6 foot, so I knew I really didn't have much of a chance, and I needed to go to the independents to make something of myself, which I did.
Did you ever try going to WCW at all? Maybe working there?
I did not. I just decided that, I didn't want to go there to prove myself again. I figured I already had. I felt their talent pool was way too big, and I would never get it.
Yeah. What was it? Now, I thought that this was kind of strange that Bobby Jaggers was in there and did a squash with you. I think he might have been wrestling with the Rockers again for that match, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think that might have been one of the matches. Hangman Bobby Jaggers. Any opinions on working with him at all?
No, name just rings a bell, and that's about it. Okay. Sadly. Sorry.
No, that's cool. That's you went to Japan at one point.
I did. I actually was a late fill-in. Somebody got hurt, and so I went over there. Sadly, I didn't know enough about their style, and I tried to first entice the audience, which they don't do.
Right.
Well, I ended up getting them finally yelling back at me. I pissed them off enough. Well, I tried to get my opponent mad, and my opponent spoke no English, and he had been like 30-year black belt.
Oh.
But I wanted him, and I, got a karate background, but I had no idea what I could take for real kicks and stuff. And so I thought, well, this might be the first time I'm getting knocked down. And so went out there, and I think it was late in either the fourth or the fifth round. He finally landed a round kick to my jaw. And I was so happy because I didn't even see bubbles, sparks, fireworks, nothing. I'm like, good, I can still take it. Drop to a knee, sold it like you're supposed to. Then I got a picture of that bastard kicking me while I'm down. And back then, that wasn't legal. But I don't think they were that happy with me because I tried to piss him off, but I didn't do it the way that they do their things. They did tell me in between rounds to pick him up for a suplex and do a faceplant suplex. And I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. I did it, dropped him in, and they go, oh, no, he'll be okay. Okay. So that was my one and only time. My opponent, we were main event, and he was trying his own league, and it didn't happen. We didn't have we had like maybe 500 people in there.
Wow.
So it wasn't a great draw for over there, and I don't know if he ever ran another show. So
that's the first time. I don't even have it listed here, but that was the first time I had ever heard of that company.
That might be D&E if I remember right, and that might have been the only show they ever ran. So
yeah.
But
so spent some time working with Herb Abrams in the UWF. You knew I was going to ask. So
it's funny. Herb and I, because I live in LA and he was here much of his time. I mean, he shared with New York, but at that time he was here. And I ended up working my way up, and of course, mostly because he pissed everybody else off and they quit. So I ended up becoming second in command on the West Coast.
Okay.
I have all of his tapes, and I've got part of them here, and I've got part of them in storage for a company that, tried to, or they did redo it, and they used Mean Gene Okerlund did voiceovers on it.
Classic wrestling, yeah.
And so I've never seen them, but I should ask for a tape just so I could watch a DVD or a link or something. But yeah, I've got everything. I've still got some merchandise here. I was mad that he died. At one point we were moving him out of his one of his Malibu houses, and my kids were getting paid to help load the lighter stuff. And at one point, Herb's laying on the driveway crying, help me, I'm dying. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. And my kids are walking by like, and I'm like, whoa, stop. Look at this. This is drugs. This is as good as it gets. Well, knock on wood, thank God, my girls never did drugs. So I'm happy. And if they saved his life, then, it was worth it. But, the guy had the gift of gab. He could go to synagogue, and it was illegal for the Jewish people to do this, but he could conduct business in the synagogue and talk people out of money.
Yeah.
I was with him a few times when, he would walk away $50,000 or $100,000, and that would help pay all of us up that he owed, and then give him money to go have fun and have his hookers and all that kind of stuff. And so it was a wild, crazy ride. It was entertaining. Herb was definitely fun. Just after the MGM Grand, he took Dr. Death Steve Williams and his girlfriend. He gave myself an extra ticket to go to Maui with him and his girlfriend.
Wow.
Well, the funny part was the night before we left, he got in a fight with his girlfriend. So he took one of Heidi Fleiss's hookers. Remember Heidi Fleiss?
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
She was the Hollywood Madam.
Got you. Okay. Yeah.
So, and Steve flew in, and I'm not sure if Steve was in Louisiana at the time or he actually came over from Japan.
Okay.
And then I, at the time, had nothing going, good relationship wise, and wasn't going to take anybody to Maui, Honeymoon Island. I've already been there, and no, it's not someplace I want to be with somebody I don't like. So I went by myself, and well, 3 days in, Herb got tired of his hooker, so he told me, take her back to the airport. We're going to charge you $50 to change her. Let's see how good you are. Don't pay the money. I came back and I go, here you go, bitch. So, but one of the funniest things, Steve and I were in the pool, and Herb, little tiny Jewish boy, light skinned, and he had to be under the shade, of course. And it was pretty humorous because the waitress comes over, she got this whole full tray full of drinks. She goes, sir, I think these are for you. I'm like, oh yeah, just set them down. I'll see you back in 30 minutes. She goes, for what? I go, the next round. Herb would send us over a whole tray full of drinks to Steve and I. We each had our own tray. Well,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the first time I really got to know Steve well, and hang out with him, talk about the business and things like that. So that was fun. And yeah, right after that, I think it was 2 weeks, and Herb was dead.
Wow. Have you ever read Jonathan Plumbum's book about Herb Abrams?
I think that's the one I just got. I
forgot what the name of it is all of a sudden.
I thought it was here. Sorry, I'm looking. I think it's the one I just received.
Yeah, I think he just put that out. I think it came out last year, if I'm not mistaken.
He was waiting to. Sorry, I can't find it right off.
That's okay. He's been on this podcast a couple of times talking about the book. First, before the book was released, and then right when the book was released, he came on, and he's put some amazing work in it, and he's offered some great information on that book, like on Herb Abrams and the UWF. So,
yeah, I had quite a few quotes in there. We talked a lot, and I gave him some of the backstories and some of the fun we had, and some of the scary times we had. I mean, when we were in Israel, I didn't know if they're going to let us leave.
Yeah.
Herb trashed his hotel room, which Herb was great at. And on the way to the airport, the manager of the hotel called us up and says, I have never in all my years seen a room this bad. I'm just like, oh my God. And so until that plane took off, I thought we might end up staying there. But that was a Herb Abrams antic, and I was with him through some of his drug things, and it was sad, horrible, and I think that's the only way Herb got out of the drug habit, is dying.
I got that. Yeah, I understand. I remember finding out, and I found out in the newspaper. I thought it was just, or maybe it was the Observer. I don't remember. There you go. Torture and Ambition, right? Yep. There you go. So let's see. What else was I gonna? You said that you had the tapes. Did you know that did you work with the Savoldi Library and get it on their network?
No,
because I know that some of the tapes were up there. I don't know where they got them from, but
I think. The family, well, when I talked to the family, they put the lawyer on, and the lawyer's like, well, you give me all the tapes, and if we make money, I'll send you money. No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not getting rid of it. Well, Sunny Beach, I think, came out, emptied out the storage locker, and took it all back, or shipped it all back, and there were some tapes in there at the time. I've got the PAL, and then I've got all the TV shows that we had done, or he had done.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've got like 200 and some hours, 220 or something hours of edited footage. And Herb was playing his game, so a lot of the matches were the same, just shuffled around.
Gotcha.
So he could make new albums, or whatever you wanted to call it, new tapes. So,
yeah,
that was Herb's little game.
Yeah, like I said, some of them appeared on the Savoldi, the newer network that the Savoldi started. There was the couple of the specials, like Blackjack Brawl came up, and the one from the Blackjack Brawl, Beach Brawl. They're in its entirety. And then there was a bunch of like the VHS specials that came out, the commercial tapes that came out.
Right.
Then there was a bunch of like TVs, and I went through and watched some of the stuff that I did not see. And it's amazing, like you said, that there was like, whoever, it seemed like at one point he was just bringing anybody in, any local guys that were to that area. It seemed like I remember these tapings, but I remember seeing different guys, but then these are like different ones that I haven't seen, but it's just like, I've never heard of any of these guys. Like 2 straight episodes, I haven't heard of any of the guys that were on there. So
Right.
that was just very bizarre. So you have all that stuff.
I do.
All that stuff. That's amazing. So you should do something with it. I would love to see all that footage.
I mean, if, I'm willing to pay somebody to help me get it out there, but we've got a lot of money invested just in storage alone on the ones that me and Gene did. Those are sitting in a film locker.
Okay.
So storage is being paid. We did just have somebody back from the East Coast want to start up a new network. So, we talked, but there wasn't any money there. And this is, it doesn't even pay for a month of storage. So no.
Right.
So it's just sitting there, but eventually it'll become antique.
It'll see the light of day someday. When? It's just
something. Yeah. Like I said, I'm sitting with all these PAL tapes, which is all the foreign formats, so any other country that wanted it. But I don't even know if those are any good anymore because of the internet and everybody being able to stream. So I don't know, because PAL is 25 frames per second, and the US is 24. So it's an extra frame in there. Yeah, it was weird why they did it. We don't know why. Maybe it's a little more quality per second. I don't know, but but I've got it. So if you ever hear of anybody, let me know, and we'll try to work out a deal. If we will, I'm happy to share monies.
Yeah, there you go. So you mentioned Sunny Beach.
Yeah,
who's he worked for Herb a long time, and he worked WWF too. And I remember watching him elsewhere, IWF, I think out of Florida, maybe. Yeah. So what was he like working with him?
He was okay. I mean, I don't think he was happy he got thrown in with me. Herb had given me a whole new gimmick. I was Dr. Feelgood, which fit into Herb's world perfectly, even though I never just dispensed drugs to Herb. But I came out with Missy Hyatt, and that was our one and only show at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas in the Garden.
I remember I watched that. I bought a tape I used to do a lot of tape trading and then go to conventions, some of the conventions early on. I remember buying that tape, and the distributor, the guy that was selling it, put a description on the back of it, and he said it was the worst wrestling event that was ever held. And I said, well, I'm already very familiar with Herb because I used to get the TV, so I said, but I got to watch this. I haven't seen any new, UWF in a long time. But I didn't think it was nearly as bad as he made it out to be. So,
it wasn't a great show by any manner of means. No. Most of us were just there doing our job. Herb became incognito before the whole show started, and there were a lot of technical issues that we tried to get fixed, and I was second in command on that one. So I'm rushing around trying to get things done, and it was as good as we could. I mean, Herb was out for the almighty dollar, and I tried to talk him into giving every employee at the MGM Grand free tickets to show up. Oh, no. Make them buy them. They can buy them. They're working people. Well, sadly, you saw. I mean, I don't, probably same thing, 400 or 500 at the most.
Right.
And it was sad, and it could have been so much better. But Herb lost focus, and I ended up taking the blame for Herb that night. Because he got caught with a hooker. Herb Abrams, really? She was mine. Sorry. And everybody was like, "Oh, that's bullshit. It wasn't."
Yeah, they knew.
Everybody knew. So, but that was the games we had to play with Herb, and like I said, it was kind of sad, but his life was not a storybook; it was a horror book that at times was great, and most of the time wasn't. And I feel bad still looking back at it that. He couldn't straighten out. And I actually talked to the judge in Malibu, Judge Myra, because Herb failed 2 piss tests. And of course, he had lawyers that, wrote up, a 10-page synopsis of why. And so the judge goes, okay, I'll accept this. And so I told Judge Myra, I go, please, he's playing games. I don't want to see him die. Well, he did. So, but the reason he died was, I think, more because he knew he was caught. He knew he was going to go to prison, and he always said, "Little Jewish boy in prison is not a good thing." And so he scared himself to death, I believe.
Yeah, I've always heard that he was, while he was a businessman, he actually deep down, he actually was very, caring and loving to a lot of people.
He was.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But a crazy businessman, I guess, and always trying to make it in the world of professional wrestling. So,
right. Here,
yeah.
Let me change out real quick. I got the surprise for you.
There you go.
Right.
All right. I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
There we
Now,
go.
this is for all the people out there.
There you go, Andre.
Andre the Giant. Now, well, we had a taping out or a premiere of one of the wrestling shows, and this was the shirt they were selling. So, all of us got them. And
Yep.
I go, oh, wait, how many of you got to work with Andre? Oh, just me? Oh, sorry, sucker. But yeah, there again, a true honor. I mean, a monster in the game, a monster in real life, and a sweet guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't actually known people that have known him, and a friend of mine said that, he met him as a kid, and his hand was just gigantic compared to his. It was just an amazing thing to see him in public. The first time, or the only time I think I might have, the only time the first wrestling show I ever attended was in 1980. It was him and Randy Savage in the main event. Savage had just won the world title, and I was in amazement. So, and I think that that's what changed my life forever as far as being interested in professional wrestling. I think I became obsessed after that because I just saw something just amazing between the two of them.
Yeah.
It was just awesome.
Yeah. Now, Randy and I got a little bit of heat at one of the shows.
Really?
He came out of the locker room because him and Liz had their own locker room. And I'm sitting in the hallway, and we all had chairs. I'm sitting there, and I was naked, had a towel across my lap. I'd just taken off my wrestling thing. I just finished, no place to shower or anything. And I was all set to, put my clothes on. He came out and saw that and just went berserk. Or this season. So the agents come over and they're yelling at me. I'm like, where are we going to go? This is a basketball arena. We're not allowed in the locker rooms because there's 10 people in each one?
Right.
Right. We got no, okay, just Randy's upset. I'm like, yeah, sorry. Well, then a couple of years later, I worked with Randy on Mad About You, a TV show.
I remember that show. Yeah.
And they beat me. I go out there and face Gorilla Boy was the guy's name. One of the stars of the show came out and decided he's going to be a pro wrestler. So he beats me and then goes on to face Macho Man. So anyways, he almost beats Macho Man, on the TV show, and then, ends up losing and all that. But I remember at the time, Liz was, not with him anymore. And he had Frankenstein.
I remember. Yep.
And I'm sitting there, and they had the ring stools like boxing, but it was for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting on the short little thing, ring aprons, 30 inches, 36 inches. I look up and there's Frankenstein's bottom half staring me right in the eye. And I realized, oh shit, Randy sees this, we're fighting. Well, that's all.
Might think you had it out.
Well, we would have gone to blows, yeah. And right away, I'm like, oh, I got to move. I got to get out of here. But, that was the only time. I mean, Randy was decent. We actually had the same agent here in Hollywood. And, it was, there again, one of the iconic figures of all of wrestling. And, to be able to at least be part of that world was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So how did you end up getting into acting? You went from wrestling to acting pretty much. And, you've done commercials, you've done shows. Sorry.
Yeah. The local promoter, or one of them here in LA, Carl Lauer, who passed away during COVID, but he was hired to do a movie as a stunt coordinator. And it was a Mexican folklore-based movie called Atomic Blue, or Zul Atomico in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And he basically comes to me and he goes, I got this script. We're going to shoot a movie, and I need a bad guy. And he goes, all you have to do is beat up, kidnap, and kill Mexicans in East LA. I'm a bad guy. Yeah, no problem. Well, I ended up working with the Lucha guys, had some fabulous fights. I mean, one of my specialties, and this is, why, as a stuntman in Hollywood, there's only a few of us can do this. I took a backdrop onto the asphalt with no padding, no gator back, no anything.
Wow.
Just me and the asphalt. So things like that. But, I trusted him to take me over, right? He did. And, yeah, it was a perfect landing. Didn't even bruise anything. But that's how I got my start into acting, is because of Carl and giving me or casting me in my very first movie.
There's one commercial that I came across recently that I forgot about, and I wanted to ask you about it. You did a Hungry Man commercial with was it Al from Happy Days? Do you remember this?
Yes.
One of my favorite sitcom of all time is Happy Days, and so I want to ask you about that commercial. How did that come about? And
I auditioned. They were looking for a wrestler.
Yeah.
And basically, I don't remember. I don't know if you saw the whole part. I actually ripped off a freezer door off of.
Yes, I remember that. Yep.
And it was a real door, so it was not light. It was probably close to 50 pounds.
Okay.
And so I got to pull it off and then turn and not hurt anybody, and do all that. And but working with Al was enlightening. Mm-hmm. Very much a gentleman. One of the things, I'll go to the very end, when we were all done filming everything, he walked to every single person in the crew, shook their hand, and thanked them.
That's amazing.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty classy. And and I had probably only been around for a couple of maybe 3-4 years at that point, so I was still pretty new to the whole acting world. But that really struck me, that he would take the time to do that. So, that impressed me. And I remember when I finally got my SAG card, I was shooting a commercial, wrestling again, up in San Francisco. And I went and sat with all the extras. Hey, I'm just a working guy here. And it was funny because it's me and another guy flown up from LA. The Frisco wrestlers were not happy because none of them got the job. But they auditioned them and didn't like them. But they took my partner, who'd never been in the ring, and I'm like, well, that's okay. I'll do all the high-flying stuff and all that. And they go, no. You beat him up. That's it. Okay. The opening spot was 25 scoops and body slams in a row. He would not let me put him down easy. Every time I would twist him one way, he would fight it. So he always came down bad. And I kept telling him, let me do my job. Don't fight me. He goes, oh, I don't care. We're getting our SAG card. This is so cool. And for like 10 hours, I did nothing but beat him up.
Sounds like fun. So, of course, one of your probably, I guess, most recognizable in a way, The Wedding Singer.
Yes.
Now you got to work with Adam Sandler and Billy Idol for that picture. And I simply thought that was just amazing. That was a lot of fun. That was I don't know if you're an Adam Sandler fan or not. That's kind of when he was just on a roll, I guess, in the 1990s.
It was the start of his role, I believe.
Yeah.
I knew his name. I knew him from, a little bit of comedy, but I had not seen Happy Gilmore. I think that was the first.
That was the one before that. Yeah, I think Wedding Singer might have been his third movie, I think.
So I went and rented it to watch it, just so I didn't go in looking stupid, going, oh, yes, I saw your movie. And, well, tell me about it. You can't. So I'm not one to lie like that. So I went out and watched it. But, okay, I see this real slapsticky, goofy comedy, but okay. But I actually read when I first auditioned for it, it was for David Lee Roth, not Billy Idol. So I'm thinking girls, all the cool songs he's got also. And I think it was 28 days later, I get a call from my agent. Well, you got the part. What part? I haven't been out in a while. Oh, The Wedding Singer. What? Oh, yeah, a month ago. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they couriered over the script that night. So, so I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. So, and then I realized it's with Billy Idol. And so, okay, I like the choices and stuff. And but when I auditioned, I actually auditioned with the director, and he goes, go ahead and invade my space. So I basically went nose to nose with him. And, because we didn't have the card or anything like that. And
right.
I actually knock him down, and then I jump down on the floor, pick him up, and like, what should we do with him now? Well, we couldn't film that well, so they cut that part of it. But, shoot the movie, everything's cool, walk on the airplane, and Adam turns to Billy Idol and goes, hey, there's your bodyguard. Well, that's kind of cool. So not know much, do our part, no big deal. And then comes the wrap party where we're celebrating the finished movie and all that. And Billy brings his whole band and gives us a private concert for 2 hours.
That's awesome.
Adam Sandler gets up and plays every song with Billy Idol, and I had no idea he was that good on the guitar.
Yeah.
Well, then talking to Adam later, he goes, I loved your tape because I gave my reel, we call it, my highlights, kind of, somewhat of what you might have seen online. Saw that, and he goes, I'm the one who hired you. You're really funny. I'm like, dude, I'm not funny. You're funny. But thank you. But yeah, so, it was all pretty cool. I didn't know until the movie came out, because there's always a chance you could hit the cutting room floor.
Right.
And I'm thinking, they can't cut my part out because it's such an intricate part of getting Robbie and Julia together on the airplane. Right.
Yep.
And so, no, when I was there, I'm like, oh, thank you. I still get paid to this day for that movie. And it's been amazing. 15 years, maybe almost 20 years.
It's over 20 years. I think it came out in 97, 98, something like that. Yeah.
So it'll be 20 years coming up here.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyways, really cool. Yeah. So I get 4 checks a year. It's only like 100 and something a check now. No, not a big deal, but it's 100 and something I didn't have yesterday.
There you go. Yeah. It's grocery money.
Yeah. Well, or dinner out with the family or something like that. So
yeah.
No, I'm very, very blessed with that. And then after all of the things that happened with the band and all that, I thought, okay, now I'm going to get going in this. Nope.
No.
It was still a struggle. No, I mean, I would go in and audition for parts and look at your resume and go, oh, The Wedding Singer, I love that movie. We're not hiring you. So, what you realize is if they don't see you fitting the part, you're not going to get the part, no matter how good you are.
Right.
So I just realized that, and even the wrestling parts here in Hollywood, I maybe got 25 or 30% of them. That was it. The rest went to non-wrestlers, and that's just the way it is. They felt they looked more like a wrestler than I did.
Well, that's you can thank Vince McMahon for that, I guess. Maybe the way he makes everybody look like they got to look like a star in a way, or different. Because when I grew up watching wrestling, wrestlers look like wrestlers. They just look like just a gigantic man,
Amen.
They look like they could whoop your ass, not sit around and play video games all day. Or
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, most of the guys that I face, you would never want to meet in a dark alley because it would be pretty.
So you keep pretty busy these days, correct?
Yeah.
Pretty much acting. I know that we were trying to schedule this. So you had a bunch of, you had to fit it into your schedule basically, that you're kind of busy. So what do you have coming up soon?
Tomorrow evening, I've got to work on a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I go till, I believe, 4 a.m. and I got an 8 a.m. to be a cowboy on Thursday. So I'm a cowboy all day, and then I go back to this other movie and shoot at night. So I've got a back-to-back almost. Crazy stuff I do, but hey, I can rest when I'm dead, and I'm having fun and I'm enjoying it, and I just love to work.
No, that's awesome. That's great. So I wish you the best of luck in all of that, and I want to know about this stuff that's coming up. So when it's released.
Okay.
Anything good, obviously shoot me a message or whatever.
I think I mentioned to you about cauliflower over in Vegas.
Yep, you did mention. When's that? That's
August. August.
Yeah, August. Yep.
You get a chance to meet a lot of the wrestlers. I know Coco Beware's coming in, and Coco and I go way back, many road trips. I was able to retouch with Paul Orndorff, and Paul sadly had Alzheimer's. And his son was there with him when I got to see him like 5 years ago, I think it was. And I was walking up, and Paul was like, so you could tell, he knew something was there, but he couldn't put the pieces together. And we had great conversations, and I told him a lot of the old road trips we took and who we worked for, and helped him along with the memory. And yeah, such a great time. I miss Dusty Rhodes. Dusty was supposed to come in, and he passed away before that happened. So I've learned, I have to take advantage of all of these different people, because we don't know if we are going to be there or they're going to be there ever again.
Right. Tomorrow's not promised. Yeah. No,
not at all. And old AWA name, Colonel De Beers.
There you go. Ed Wiskowski.
Eddie. Yeah. Well, we ended up seeing him in Vegas here maybe 6 or 8 years ago, and he didn't look good. He was still a big man. It always amazed me how thick that, wide shoulders, thick in the chest. I mean, he was a true wrestler.
Yes.
But to see him, and we knew he had cancer and he wasn't doing well, and I think he came to say his goodbyes. And as sad as it was, we were happy and honored that he did it, and it was good to see him and be able to say goodbye. So this reunion's good for a lot of the stuff. For fans, fans are invited. They get to partake in all things. The dinner cost, I think it's about $150 for 2 dinners.
Okay.
You get the Tuesday night, which they call the Bockwinkel Blowout now, which is basically like a humongous deli tray. They feed 700 people, and they never run out. So you can make 2, 3, 10 sandwiches if you wanted, with all the little fixings. And then the next night, the big night, it's a sit-down dinner, and it's like steak and shrimp or something along those lines. Where they feed you, or they bring the plate to the table. So a little more classier. But yeah, like 150. And is it worth that much money? No, but you're there with some of the top guys in the wrestling business, and that's
it's the experience. Cool. It's the experience.
Yeah. So, and all day Tuesday, Monday, and Tuesday, and Wednesday too, I guess. They have what they call the gimmick room, and a lot of guys will be in there selling their autographs, tapes, things like that, taking pictures, and you can go in and talk to them and get buy merchandise and whatever you want. So for the fans, that's pretty cool. And I used to have a booth there, and then I just got tired of that and wanted to go have more fun. And but the nice part was everybody that was at that convention, every big name would walk around looking at everything, and you get your chance to get your picture with them and things like that. So that was always cool. And but yeah, on the bigger and better things.
One of these days I'm going to have to get out there, because, I've been toying with the idea for a few years now, and it just sounds like an amazing time between hearing from it from yourself and other podcasters that have spoken about being there and stuff like that. It just sounds like an amazing time.
It is. I'm going to be honored this year with another award. I received the Jason Sanderson, who's a old-time wrestler back in your area, from back in the day, but he gave away a humanitarian award because of all the charities I did. I received that, I think it was 2012. And now here we are 11 years later, and I'm going to get the real award, which is REEL, for all the stuff I've done in Hollywood.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. But the only person that has more credits than I do is Judo Gene LaBelle.
Yes.
Wow. Number 2 on the list is Rowdy Roddy Piper. I'm in between the two of them. So I realized, wow, that's those are humongous names. I'm honored to just be in the same sentence as them. So it's very humbling, but I'm very thankful for this award coming up. And so, yeah, if you're going to miss the award, fine, dude, stay home.
You can follow along online as well, too. You know, they have an Instagram page, which I follow quite frequently. So it's updated all the time. So, yeah, one of these days, I'm definitely going to try to get out there. Hopefully, maybe this year. Who knows? I'm on the convention circuit this year. So, hopefully I'll do that one, too. Anyways, I want to thank you for coming on here tonight. I really appreciate it. So, where can people find you?
Instagram is probably the easiest. Al Burke, all one word, ALBURKE 4782, I believe it is. I'm holding a baby tiger. And that's a place where, you know, I'm taking people. I think I've got like 80,000 followers now. I mean, like I did a Billie Eilish video, and I think I got 20,000 of her fans instantly from that. I did Cardi B. I did her album cover. I think I got another 10 or 15,000 of her people. So, you know, they find out that, oh, you're the cop in this or cop in that, you know, because I'm usually the cop. So I've gotten a lot of followers there, and not so much wrestling anymore. And my Instagram originally was just for the animals I've worked with, hence the baby tiger. But I've worked with, you know, full-grown elephants and things like that, you know, from dogs to cats to mice to rats to snakes. Even Britney Spears' famous albino snake, I've worked with that one. Not with Britney, sadly. But yeah, you know, I've been very blessed in all the things I do. But yeah, if people want to find me, that would be the easiest place. And I usually post at least one picture a day.
Okay.
I try for, you know, no less than 4 or 5 a week. But there's times, you know, 1 a day, you know, maybe even 2. So that's the easiest way to keep track of me and all the goofy things I get to do in life.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on here, and maybe we'll have you back someday to talk about some of your projects coming up.
Perfect. Thank you much, Rick. A pleasure. And have a good evening. And see you in Vegas.
Yes, sir.